Hello there, beautiful soul, and welcome to the Bright Living Podcast, a podcast where we learn tools and techniques to live a more luminous life. In today's episode, we tackle the subject of breathing. And if you're someone who's wondering, how can I improve my sleep, my energy, or even how can I heal from asthma or just improve my asthma condition, then this episode is for you. Actually, this episode is for you if you just want to feel better overall in your skin, if you want to have better health, to have better energy, to be more calm when needed and more energized when needed. What am I talking about? This is one of my favorite subjects. Breathing and learning about breathing might be one of the most important things we can do in this life. And let me tell you why. Breathing is something that we all do. Breathing is here for us at every moment of our lives. Till our last breath, breathing is just here and we take it for granted. Until, let's say, we get a cold and we cannot breathe through the nose anymore. Or maybe we get asthma, and I really hope that's not the case for you. And we discover that small activities or normal activities become harder than they used to be. Or maybe we have trouble with snoring at night. Or maybe we wake up during the night and feel out of breath, which is called sleep apnea. Maybe we deal with anxiety and discover that in some sudden moments we suddenly cannot control our breath anymore and we start to breathe uncontrollably. That's when we start to wonder, is there something wrong with the way that I'm breathing? Is there something that I could do better? And that's the moment when we stop taking our breath for granted. 10 years ago, I was suffering from asthma, from chronic sinusitis. I had septal deviation, and my breath was simply out of whack. Even as a child, I was suffering from many respiratory disease, always having a cold, always having my nose congested. I remember one day, I woke up and I was feeling a bit dizzy. And during that time in my life, I was having a lot of trouble walking up the stairs or just making mundane activities, having a normal day. And one day I just woke up, looked in the mirror, and I saw that my lips were blue. So I went to the doctor and they told me, you have asthma. I did some tests to confirm that, and unfortunately the diagnosis was clear. In that day, I remember that in that day I felt powerless. I felt like everything was going to collapse for me. I felt that on top of everything that I was experiencing, now this. And I would always have to be ill, to be sick for my whole life because I had heard that asthma is not really something that you recover from. So you can imagine my desperation, I think, in that moment. But at the same time, there was this moving anger inside of me when I told myself, you know what, I don't want to live like this. I don't want to experience this. I'm going to do whatever I can to get over this. And of course, I started taking my medicine. I followed my doctor's recommendation, but that caused even more trouble for me. I gained even more weight due to my medication. I had less and less energy. Part of me was starting to resign to this idea that it's always going to be this way. But another part of me was very ready for something else, was very ready for something that would switch things up for me. When I started to practice yoga, I didn't even think that it would help me with asthma. I was practicing just because it was making me feel good. It was making me focus better, but I had no idea about the connection that it had. I had no idea that it had such a big connection to my asthma. The first time that I came across breathing exercises was in India. I quit my job and decided to fully go to this path of teaching, not just yoga, but techniques, bright living techniques, techniques to live a luminous life. In 2017, I went to India for my yoga training, and that's when I discovered breath exercises. First time that I did a breath exercise, I found it was quite hard to do. I found that my lung capacity was still not fully developed. But I kept going, and I kept going. And during the training, I could see that things were getting better and better for me. I was making huge progress, and I was breathing better and better. And I was slowly dropping my medication. Not recommending that you do that, but my instinct was just that I should just drop my asthma medication. And I was feeling better by the day. I was actually feeling a lot more energized. I was sleeping better. So I really fell in love with these breathing exercises. I didn't know at the time the science behind it. I had no idea why exactly was it helping me so much. But I remember how deeply I was releasing emotions during breathwork. I remember how much energy it would give me in the morning and how much calm I would get in the evening while practicing breathwork. So even though I went to India to do yoga, and I thought yoga was mainly poses and maybe some meditation, I have to say that breathing and breathwork was the most important thing that I got from there. I still do my breath exercises every single day, and when I don't, I can feel the difference in my state. I still, to this day, use breathing exercises every day to mobilize the lower part of my lungs so that I eliminate residue dust and so that I don't give my lungs the opportunity to become lazy again. Now you may wonder, what exactly does make breath so important to us? Why is it so important to breathe deeply? Have you seen a baby breathe? Babies breathe through their belly very easily. They're taking deep breaths. Even though as babies we barely breathe, over time we begin to breathe more and more using our chest. Especially when we're stressed, we're shallow breathing, we're short breathing. On top of that, if our muscles are tense, for example, after a whole day of driving or a whole day spent at the office or at the laptop, breathing becomes very shallow. But it's very, very important to breathe deeply. And why is that? Well, first of all, a deep breath makes us inhale 10 times more air than in a normal breath. By deep breathing, we can increase our lung capacity up to 15%, which can be a lot and can feel a lot. But this has to be trained. We don't just take more air in by overbreathing and by breathing too much. On the contrary, we take more air in by stretching, by breathing slowly, and by exhaling fully. The paradox to this is that we don't actually oxygenate our body when we overbreathe. We may think that if we take large breaths, very deep breaths, it's actually going to oxygenate our body, but it won't. And I'll explain you why. But before that, I want us to do a small exercise together. I'd like you to take your right palm, place it on the belly, just on the navel or a bit above the navel, and your left palm on your chest. And now relax your body, relax your shoulders, and watch as you inhale gently. Where does your breath go? Does it go in your chest? Does it go in your belly? And see which part of your body is actually rising. Which part of your body rises first when you inhale? Does your left palm rise first, or does your right palm rise first? And simply watch that for a couple of breaths, without forcing, without modifying anything, and see what happens. And now, see if you can push a bit of air into your belly to make your belly rise first. See if you can maybe allow your belly to receive air by pushing it a bit forward away from your spine. And then maybe naturally your chest will rise. And as you exhale, you're going to exhale slowly through the nose, chest, and then belly. When you exhale, make sure you give out a full exhale. Even if you have to force it the first 2-3 times, make sure you're giving a full exhale, making space for even more air to come in on your next inhale. And when you're ready, come back. And I challenge you for the rest of this day to take deep belly breaths, to always invite the air into your belly. When we breathe into our belly, which is called diaphragmatic breathing, so we're not actually breathing into the belly, but into our diaphragm, massaging our diaphragm and making the belly rise, pressing a bit onto the abdomen. That's what actually makes the belly rise. When that happens, our parasympathetic nervous system gets activated. Our rest and digest system gets activated. So we start to feel more secure. We start to feel more calm. We start to be more in touch with our emotions. We might even dodge a panic attack. So what makes it so hard sometimes to breathe in our belly? Well, one thing is posture. If our posture is one where we don't keep our back straight, we might have a hard time actually pushing our belly a bit forward. If you're really having a hard time with this, you may lie on your back and make a point of pressing your belly up to the sky and away from your spine until you teach your muscles to relax a bit more when you're inhaling. Another thing that makes us breathe shallow, that makes us breathe through our chest, is actually stress. So you may want to find a couple of relaxed moments when you feel you're safe and you're able to relax your body so that you can receive that full breath. Another aspect of breathing that is so important is nose breathing. So many people nowadays breathe through their mouth. Even at night, if we're not aware, we may gently open our mouth and invite the breath through the mouth. But this is really, really detrimental to our health. So nose breathing is something that you should make a point to do and to practice. Now, you may have a hard time breathing through your nose. Maybe you have a chronic condition like a deviation, or maybe your nose is chronically congested. If this is a case for you, it's even more needed for you to practice breathing through your nose. And let me tell you why this is so important. When we breathe through the nose, we create some pressure inside our skeletal structure of the face and jaw. What this does is to keep the normal structure of our nose so that we have enough space to receive the air. If we don't practice nose breathing, in time, the airways become smaller and smaller. Our face structure becomes smaller, and we find it even harder to receive the breath through the nose. Breathing through the nose and through both nostrils equally aligns both brain hemispheres. So the left nostril is connected to the right brain hemisphere, and the right nostril is connected to the left brain hemisphere. What this does is make us a more balanced human being. What this does is help us use our creative thinking in alignment with our structural logical thinking. Now, we all have a dominant nostril that we use to breathe. And to find your dominant nostril, I invite you to place the index finger under your nose, take a full deep inhale, and let the air out gently. And then you can see which side of your nose, which nostril gave out more air. And that is your dominant nostril. Another way is to cover one of the nostrils. Let's say you cover the right. Inhale through the left and see if you have any trouble inhaling through the left. Take a couple of breaths through the left. Then cover your left nostril. Inhale, exhale through the right. See if you have any trouble. Most cases, there's one nostril that is a bit clogged, that is a bit blocked. Well, that's exactly the nostril that you need to practice breathing from, because you want to teach that airway to receive the air, and you want to use the pressure of the air inside to actually expand. So conditions like sinusitis or septiviation can actually be controlled by this. Another reason why it's so important to breathe through the nose is that we have control over temperature, humidity, and we filter the air. Also, nose breathing leads to abdominal breathing. It leads to us using our diaphragm. Another very important reason is that the receptors in the nose activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which makes us calm, which makes the brain understand that we are safe. Another crucial reason for this is that nose breathing improves sleep. And I know so many of you struggle with sleep actually. So many of you maybe wake up during the night with sleep apnea, feeling suffocated, or maybe you have trouble snoring, or maybe someone in your house has trouble snoring. Well, all of this is solved by practicing nose breathing. I really recommend a book in this sense. If you read Breath by James Nestor, you're going to see his experience in an experiment where for 10 days he has his nose closed and is breathing only through his mouth, and what that does to his body. And then he is closing his mouth through the night and breathing through the nose, and what that does to his body. I'm not going to spoil it for you. Go ahead and read the book. It is absolutely amazing. It is life-changing for anyone. But what you can take from this right now is make it a point to breathe through the nose at night. If you're not used to this at all, you might be able to breathe through the nose for 5-10 minutes in the beginning. but you're going to increase it gradually and get to a point where you can sleep for the whole night with the mouth closed and breathing through the nose. There are people who have made this so important in their lives that they are actually securing their mouth closed with a small piece of adhesive, with a small piece of band-aid or plaster placed on their lips, so that they make sure that the mouth doesn't open during the night and they breathe through the nose all night. I know this might sound a bit weird, but people are actually doing this, and it really makes sense. It really improves the way you sleep. And last but not least, the reason why it's really important to breathe through the nose is that, and this might be very relevant to anyone who wants to improve their immune system, who wants to make their immune system function better. When we breathe through the nose, nitric oxide is produced, and this acts against pathogens. Certain exercises actually increase the level of nitric oxide in our sinuses by 15 times. So breathing through the nose, you're actually protecting yourself from pathogens. Now, one reason why the breath is so important to our lives and so relevant is that we can use it in two ways. We can use it to calm our nervous system, to ensure digestion, to decrease our activation. But we can use it in a different way to increase our activation, to increase the heartbeat, to increase cortisol when needed. For example, certain breath exercises in the morning are extremely relevant to waking us up to the point that you might not need any coffee anymore. So a certain way of breathing, rapid breathing, provides actually activation, makes the body move, moves the energy in the body. But in this episode, I'm focusing more on calming breathing, on deactivating breathing, the breath that calms us down and regulates our fight and flight response. And this is why we experience anyway a lot of activation in our day. So I believe the tools to deactivate and to calm are extremely relevant. Breathing deeply can even cure depression. And how? How exactly does that happen? Because when you hear this, maybe you're experiencing a bit of skepticism, like, how does that really happen? You might have heard before about the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is one of the most important branch of our parasympathetic nervous system. The vagus nerve controls our heart response, our lungs, our digestive organs. It prepares us for connection, for human connection. It activates kindness, compassion, joy, and it reduces depression. And people in clinical supervision for depression actually receive a stimulator of this nerve so that whenever they have an internal crisis, they can press that and their vagus nerve would be activated, will be gently massaged. And in our bodies, this nerve is located from the base of our neck to the base of our spine. It passes through the diaphragm, and there are very specific ways in which we can activate it. Deep breathing would be one, deep abdominal diaphragmatic breathing, singing, humming, stretching, yoga, meditation, human connection, massage, especially in the neck area. All of these strengthen the vagal tone, improve our cognitive function, improve our sleep. Your state of positive activation is associated with the vagus nerve. And again, this nerve is activating by slow, deep breathing. Now, let me tell you a little bit about the spiritual view of the breath. In Sanskrit, working with your breath is called pranayama. And prana is the force of life. Prana is the ascending flow of energy located between the lungs, the larynx, and the diaphragm. Prana is our inhale. Prana is, in the traditional view, life and energy, is the moving force. So from a traditional point of view, our breath is our life, is life expanding. But more important, but at least as important as prana, is apana. The opposite of prana, apana, is the descending flow of energy. It's located before the navel. It creates movement in the digestive tract and our large intestines. It's associated with sweat, detoxification, elimination, and with the exhale. The balance between prana and apana is extremely important. To exhale is to create space is to release. When we exhale, we detoxify. And sometimes the way to a deeper breath is actually a deeper exhale. In asthma, the rigidity that is created in the lungs doesn't so much affect inhale as it affects exhale. When you go to do a test, they give you a tube and you have to exhale for them to see the capacity of your exhale. So if you're having a hard time, make sure you give out a full exhale. Prana and apana are complementing energies. Sometimes during the exhale, during the apana, during engaging with apana, you might experience some emotion, which only means that emotion is being released from your body. In traditional terms, our breath is considered to be our first source of nourishment, even before we were even this form of body, even before we were even human beings with lungs and digestive system. When we were just a cell, just a thing, without any regular shape and form, we were being nourished through the breath. So to sum it all up, because this is a lot of information, let's see a couple of things that you can do starting right now to improve your sleep, to improve the way you feel, to improve your emotional balance, to improve your overall health condition. Number 1, practice breathing into the belly. Practice slow, deep breathing. Number 2, make it a point to breathe through the nose. Do whatever you need, decongest your nose, but make it a point to breathe through the nose. And number 3 is actually stretch. Stretching creates space in the body to improve our lung capacity. I really hope this podcast made you look at your breath in a different way, and I'm really looking forward to guiding you towards your breath. So if you feel curious, if you want to explore more, and if you want to connect with some of the teachings that I've brought from the base of the Himalayas, go ahead on the YouTube channel. You may find there some breath practices, or simply follow my Instagram profile where I regularly post events and courses because I'm really, really committed to this work. Actually, a couple of days ago, I was thinking to myself that if there's one thing that I would like to focus my whole attention and my whole energy on is breathwork, is teaching people how to breathe. I cannot wait for you to experience for yourself how amazingly transformational this is. And if I'm going to be your guide, I'm more than excited. You'll find some recommendations in the description of this podcast. You'll find the link to my Instagram profile. Go ahead and practice and experience with your breath. Thank you so much for being here today. I am so excited to have you here. I'm so honored. And I'll see you next time.